Let me start at the beginning, because that's how I like to tell stories. I have a hereditary hearing loss. It didn't show up until my teens. So as I was growing up, I was able to develop good language skills. I was an excellent student in school. But by the time I was 15, I had become that annoying person in the movie theater. You probably know the one. She misses a key piece of dialogue in the movie, so she leans over to her friend and she says, "What did he just say?" That was me, several times throughout a single movie. By the time I was 20 and a second-year student in university, I had a different set of friends, and they were much more direct with me. "You really need to get hearing aids," they said to me. So I got hearing aids. Lucky for me, hearing aid technology was improving in those days, but my loss was a degenerative one. So despite the fact that the hearing aids helped at first, I lost a little bit more hearing every year. But what I did is because the technology continued to improve, what I did was I just kept buying better and more sophisticated hearing aids. Meanwhile, I wasn't going to identify too much with being a hearing impaired person. I also had dreams and aspirations. I always loved to write. In school, it was the only kind of homework I didn't mind doing. I was a voracious reader. I was one of those kids, that kept a list of books that she had read over the summer holidays. I loved researching, loved going to the public library. So it was a little inevitable, to me anyways, when I chose to pursue a career as a writer. I got my degree at IABC in English, and then I went to journalism school. But a nagging doubt persisted. Was a career as a newspaper reporter, which had been my dream since I was a kid, was that even a realistic plan? I decided to ask my journalism instructor. To his credit, Peter said to me, "It's up to you." He gave me some more specific advice after that. He said, "Well, you could do some research, and you could find some other people who also have hearing impairments and have worked as journalists, and you could find out what it was like for them." But in the end, he repeated his same basic advice to me, which was, "It's up to you." And at the time, I thought that he had been completely useless to me. No help whatsoever. I realize now that he saved me from abandoning a dream. It wasn't easy being a reporter with less than optimal hearing. But I learned to read lips, and I would make sure I would arrange interviews in places where I knew the sound quality was going to be good. And in a scrum, I would do everything I had to do to get as close to the speaker as I possibly could. It wasn't easy, but I did it for 6 amazing years. I started out at a mid-sized daily in Kamloops, and I worked at the Vancouver Sun after that. I covered more than my fair share of front-page news. I interviewed people from all walks of life, from people who were living on the street to cabinet ministers and premiers. I even interviewed Mr. Dress-Up one day, who was, as you can imagine, a really nice guy to talk to. When I switched to a career in PR, I learned to love that even more. Unlike the life of a reporter, which is basically, as a reporter, you spend about half of your day researching and interviewing people and the other half of your day writing, I found that the life of a PR pro had a lot more variety to it. I was advising senior leaders, giving presentations, speaking publicly, and still researching and writing a lot. But the The nagging doubts persisted. My hearing continued to get a little bit worse every year. Eventually, my loss was such that I was eligible for a cochlear implant 2 years ago. So, first, there's the surgery. They make an S-shaped incision behind your ear, and then they take the cochlear implant, which is it's a nickel-sized little device with 2 little tentacles hanging off of it, and they insert that. It does the work, basically, of the inner ear. They sew you up, they send you home to heal. 4 weeks later, you're back at the hospital where they switch the device on for the first time. After that, there's about a week of rehab because your brain needs time to make sense of all this new sound that it's receiving. I did well. I was done in 4 days. And the following week, I was back at work where suddenly I could hear again. I remember coming back from a meeting early in those first few days back at the office and realizing, it's just because I can hear doesn't mean every meeting is going to be really interesting. Boring content is still boring content. So I started thanking people. Now, everybody knows Van City is a great place to work. They really accommodated me at a time when my hearing was at its worst. And so I wanted as many of them to know that I was truly grateful. And then one day, one senior leader said something to me that I will never forget. He said, "Yeah, but you always did the work." And that's so very true. By the time I'd gotten to Van City, I had already worked in communications in a variety of different industries for a variety of different employers. I had taken on leadership roles. I had gotten my accreditation through IABC. I had already arrived. I could just hear better now, that's all. So here's what I learned from all this. Always, always follow your dreams because they can turn out to be more amazing than you ever could have imagined. And always, always believe in yourself. It's really worth it. Thanks for listening, everyone.